Welcome everybody, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to have Tara Otro and Dr. Rob Christian with us today. Tara is going to share a lot with us today about nutrition. Thank you to our student athletes and coaches who have submitted topics and things like that that Tara has woven into her presentation to share with us today. So I will give the mic over to Dr. Christian, and please warm up.
Hello, everybody. This is awesome. We're really excited to get started. So for those that I have not met, I'm Dr. Rob Christian. I'm the head team physician here at Iona, and I've been doing so for about the past year and see a ton of familiar faces here in the crowd, which is great. And we are really excited to get started today with our sports medicine lecture series. So we're going to be doing this 3 or 4 times a year with different topics that are coming from athletics and sports medicine and us at NYP Columbia. And our first lecture here is Tara Ostro. So Tara is a board certified registered dietitian here at NYC with a practice specializing in sports medicine, nutrition, eating disorder management. She's got a lot of professional experience. So she has worked with the New York Red Bulls, the New York Football Giants, the AS Monaco FC, and a number of other places, and has started to work with some of our Iona athletes here. So with that, I won't take any more of our time, and we'll let Tara go ahead and get started. So please welcome Tara Ostro.
Thank you, Dr. Christian. Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about ways that you can boost your performance through nutrition. It's one component that can make a big difference. I see it as like nutrition can make a good athlete great. It can give you that next level, or it can make also on the opposite side, it can make a great athlete just good. So it can definitely bring you to that next level. So just to talk a little bit about a quick overview of my background. I know Dr. Christian already mentioned, I work with professional, collegiate, and youth athletes from a wide range of sports. And there's certain things for nutrition that are common for all sports, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Each sport is a little bit different when you get into whether it's more endurance or strength, but these goals that we're going to be discussing are common for everyone to aim towards. So just a quick overview, we're going to be talking about the top nutrients for performance, nutrient timing, I'm going to explain what that is, recovery nutrition, hydration, a little overview on sleep, and then also discussing how to utilize your campus dining the best way. Next. Okay, so top fueling plus top training plus top recovery leads to a top athlete. So fueling, hydrating, training, recovery, preparation, and sleep all work together to make you a top athlete. So nutrition plays an important role. You want to fuel your body with the best nutrition to lead to the best performance. Okay, so what are the performance benefits of fueling your body with the best possible nutrition? So you want to look at, we're going to discuss that in a second, but you want to look at each time you eat as an opportunity to give yourself the best nutrition that you can give yourself to provide your body with the best fuel. And we're going to go into details on all of that. Okay, so the performance benefits, it can make a big difference in terms of endurance, in terms of explosive speed, energy, recovery, preventing injuries is a huge one. It can help decrease stress, increase strength, focus, and memory, making quick decisions, cognitive function, ideal body composition, a decreased risk of injury, again, is huge, better sleep and faster healing time. So just to kind of give a quick, like 101, a quick overview on the top nutrients to focus on. So I'm going to go into like the macronutrients, which are your carbs, your protein, your fat, the micronutrients, which is your vitamins and minerals, and then water. And all of those things together combine to have the best impact on performance. But there's specific foods for each of those categories that you want to make sure that you focus on, because that's going to have the biggest impact. So to start, carbs. Carbs are your main fuel for energy. It's going to help you in terms of endurance, in terms of speed. It has a huge impact in terms of performance. And the time that you really want to focus on everything, mostly with the carbs, is the before training, the before games, and then the after. So kind of like looking at the most important time for the carbs to be around playing your sport. But there's certain carbs that are going to make much more of an impact. And then there's others that can actually decrease performance. So okay, so the ones that are going to be most important. Okay, so on the category on the left are the items that you want to choose. So sticking with like whole grains whenever possible. I know it's maybe not always available, but when it is possible, is choosing the brown rice, choosing whole grain pasta, choosing whole wheat bread. Those items are very high in B vitamins. So they're much more rich in those items, which are going to help with carbohydrate metabolism. So it's going to help a lot with endurance. They have anti-inflammatory factors, so it helps your body recover when you're choosing those items. And they're also higher in iron, so it's also going to help a lot with energy too. Fruit and vegetables all fall in that category as well. And when I say things to limit, I'm saying like, 90% of the time trying to choose like the column on the left, which is again, all of like your whole grains, your fruits, your vegetables, and then 10%, there's always room for a little bit on that other end. But in terms of performance, especially when you're in season, to really trying to aim for the most ideal carbohydrates that are going to make the biggest impact. Okay, so the next item, just to kind of give a quick summary, protein. So a lot of times people think of protein as muscle building. That's like number one, but it impacts so many systems of your body as an athlete. It can make a big impact in terms of the immune system too, to keep you healthy the entire season, the entire school year. But it's important for decreasing injury risk, for body composition, for metabolism, for blood sugar control, and it sustains your energy throughout a sport. But most important, we're going to go into details on that, but really trying to make sure that you're getting in some protein really soon after your workout, trying to get in some sort of recovery shake, and then making sure you're getting in like a pretty good meal with a protein source soon after. So we're now going to go into like which proteins are the better ones, kind of similar to the carbs, what's going to make the biggest difference in terms of body composition, in terms of health, in terms of performance. Okay, so you want to try to stick whenever possible to the grilled, the baked, the roasted, steamed. All of those options are going to be your healthiest choices, but also trying to just choose from the category on the left that's like chicken, fish, trying to choose turkey. Ham is also really lean. Having eggs, egg whites, all of those are going to be your best sources that are going to provide your body with the best nutrition for recovery, for performance. The items on that right, like the things to try to limit, it's not saying never have them, but it can make a big impact in terms of promoting inflammation. So like, especially after a game, trying to really limit those items, it's really important. Or if you had a really high intensity training that day, that's when it's like most important to really limit the items on the right, because you want to promote recovery. All right, next, in terms of fat. So fat also, the types of fat that you choose can make a big impact in terms of recovery, in terms of bringing down inflammation. It is also an energy source, but I look at it for really important as like an athlete right now is making sure that you're giving your body what it needs to make the hormones that you need. So it's a precursor to make testosterone, it's a precursor to make estrogen, and those have a huge impact in terms of making sure that you prevent injuries. So if those levels are low, you're much more at risk of a stress fracture, of an injury. So fat plays an important role in terms of that, as well as choosing the right fat for the best body composition, for performance reasons. as well as it stores your fat soluble vitamins. So it plays an important role, but again, you want to make sure you're choosing like the best fats to help decrease inflammation. So next, please. Okay, so the fats that you want to choose are on that column on the left, and those are the things that are going to actually really help bring down inflammation. It's also going to help with your body's full recovery. It's again going to sustain your energy. Those are coming from pretty much like your nuts, your seeds, avocado, hummus is in that category, and your fatty fish like salmon. Those things are going to have anti-inflammatory factors. So it's kind of the best types of fat that you want to choose. The things on the right, again, just trying to limit it, especially around the sports, especially after a big game or high intensity training. You want to try to really promote the anti-inflammatory factors for your performance, and that's going to be from those factors there. So just a quick overview in terms of micronutrients. So those are your vitamins, minerals, your antioxidants. Basically, the main goal is trying to have a colorful plate. So basically, if you end up like choosing one from each category, something that's red, something that's orange, something that's green every day, you're gonna most likely be able to get a big percentage of your vitamins from that alone, because each color represents typically different vitamins. So I'm going to just highlight a couple main ones that are super important in terms of bringing down inflammation, help your body recover. Really important for sports. Your levels and your needs are so much higher because you guys are so active. So vitamin C is an important antioxidant as well as micronutrient. And it's basically in all your berries, it's in all your citrus fruits, but it's also in tomatoes, it's in broccoli, it's in kale, it's in a lot of vegetables as well. I think a lot of people think of just oranges, but it's in so many different items. I'm trying to think of one thing on here at least to include on a daily basis, because if you choose one of those items, then you're at least going to get a pretty good percentage of vitamin C because it packs in a pretty high amount for just a small portion. The next one is beta carotene. That's what's in pretty much, it's vitamin A, but it is a really strong antioxidant as well. It's going to help your body recover. It's pretty much in most of your orange vegetables, so carrots, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, but it's also in all the leafy greens, such as like kale and collard greens. So if you try to choose at least, again, one of those items on a pretty regular basis, then you're going to be getting a lot in terms of that anti-inflammatory, antioxidant benefit. The next one to focus on is vitamin E. It is also a really strong antioxidant. It's found in a lot of like your higher fat type of items because it's a fat soluble vitamin. But if you can choose one of these items that you see that you can eat on a regular basis, then you know you're going to be getting a pretty good source of that. And I always do recommend for anyone that's training at a collegiate level is to take a multivitamin daily, but you're only really getting in 10 to 15% of that vitamin itself. So it's much better to get it from the food sources. You absorb it much better, and to try to kind of have that food first mentality. Again, a vitamin's going to probably bring you up to another level, but you're going to be getting a lot better absorption when it's coming from food. So nutrient timing. So not only like what you eat, but the times that you eat makes a big impact in terms of performance, in terms of recovery, in terms of energy. So fueling optimally pre, during, post, and then even through the rest of the evening makes a big impact on performance. It supports optimal recovery. It makes a big difference in terms of achieving your fitness goals and getting the most out of your training. So you train so hard that you want to make sure you're getting the most out of that. Okay, so just as a general goal, trying to fuel often, trying to eat every 2 to 4 hours, bring some snacks with you, use the refueling station, trying to just be mindful. And usually it's It's important to try to have a structure and routine to your eating. Trying to like plan out even the time schedule that works best. I know each day might be different depending on your class schedule. So just having a little bit of a framework to help you meet your nutrition goals. So this is just like, again, like an overview of a schedule. Everyone will have their own needs depending on their practice schedule, depending on their individuals, but trying to like come up with something like that yourself. But what's common for everyone, starting the day, which we'll go into when we talk about hydration, but starting the day as soon as you wake up with about a half a liter of water, that starts the entire process of getting your hydration on track, getting your metabolism going, and getting your body ready in terms of performance. So, but trying to make sure that you have breakfast, a pre-workout snack, making sure that you're being mindful during, right after, and then the rest of the day. So again, I always think it's good to kind of have a little bit of a schedule, take 5 minutes to sit aside and sort of make a plan for yourself. Trying to make sure that you're having breakfast every day. It actually, even if you don't have training until much later, or you don't have a game till later that night, the breakfast actually will make a big difference in terms of your performance, even like 12 hours later in the day. So there's a lot of good studies that show if someone didn't have it and they had a later practice, even though they thought they were getting in all of their nutrition, their performance was about 10% lower than what it could have been. So it does impact that. It gets your metabolism going. It's what gives you your fuel for your practices. Even if your stomach doesn't tolerate a lot of food in the morning, I know a lot of people can't handle a lot, but even just something small, even just grabbing a banana, grabbing a bar, anything like that, even a half of a bar, that's going to give your body a little bit of nutrition to get everything started running efficiently, to give you that energy for performance. So in terms of the pre-training, what's most important, about 3 to 4 hours. And again, I know that this isn't always ideal depending on like if you have maybe like a 6 a.m. training schedule. I know like waking up at 3 a.m. to eat is not always possible, but in general, like ideally, in terms of like about 3 hours before, giving your body that time to digest, and then about 45 minutes to 1 hour before having a snack, and making sure again that you're hydrating well. There's certain foods that are more ideal, things like the complex carbs, like we were talking about before. So a little bit of like the whole grains and some fruit. That's going to make a big difference in terms of your energy and your endurance. Having some protein, keeping it lean, and trying to like be mindful to keep your fat intake before event or game like pretty on the lower side, and again having more later to help with that recovery afterwards. But that's really important, keeping the fiber a little bit low too, so it doesn't upset your stomach, your body. You don't want to have that time to digest the fat, to digest the fiber, the things that take a lot longer to digest. You want to be able to have your muscles use the carbs, have your muscles use that fuel properly. Okay, so again, like the snack, similar before, ideally carbs are kind of the main source that's going to give you that endurance. But you want to make sure it's not super high in sugar. Trying not to grab the candy, even though you think it like could give you that little bit extra of an energy boost, but it can spike your sugar levels and then kind of make you feel more tired about halfway through. So trying to make sure that it is a little bit more of a complex, lower sugar type of carb. Again, that's your main focus. Maybe it has a little bit of protein to sustain your energy, but trying to keep it fairly low in fat. Everyone's portions are different based on your body, but even just having something small, again, if you can't tolerate a lot, or grabbing a sports drink, if you have a hard time digesting right before, that will still benefit you. Okay, and then in terms of like recovery nutrition, so there are certain goals for recovery nutrition. This is like the nutrition that your body needs after practice, after a game, after a meet. Basically, the main focus is giving your body the fluids and electrolytes, giving your body the carbs to replace those stores that you had used during the game. And then also giving yourself that protein for growth, for tissue repair, to basically the main focus is so you can be able to perform at your highest level the next day after. And usually after a game, you're going at such a high intensity that this will help with that recovery if you're eating the right things. So it also has a big difference in terms of, it has a big impact in terms of lowering your risk of injury. So the main focus, again, on recovery nutrition, and we'll go into more details on that, but it's basically trying to get in a shake, a protein shake. When it's in that liquid form, it goes to your muscles much faster. Within 30 minutes is really kind of like that window of opportunity to help your body recover, that it has some protein, it has some carbohydrates, and then making sure you're getting in a good meal within 1 hour after that has a balance of some protein, some carbs, some fat, some vegetables, some fruit, all of those components that build together to get you back to be able to perform at that next level, whether it is even later that day or the next day. You know, your training schedule can vary a lot if it's a higher intensity, lower intensity, and that can have an impact in terms of portions. But kind of like as like an overview, if it's a heavier training day, your carb needs are higher. Usually your protein needs might be higher as well, but it's usually grabbing an extra scoop, an extra fistful of rice, grabbing a piece of fruit to give you an extra carb portion at the meal, an extra piece of like whole grain bread. That's on that heavier training days. On the lower training days, again, each body is a little bit different, so this is like an overview, but it should be more kind of like even with some protein, some carbs, some vegetables. So hydration. So again, trying to begin each day with about a half a liter, 16 ounces of water. That's going to restart your whole hydration process. When you wake up, your body's dehydrated. If you go to the bathroom, you'll see your urine is pretty dark. That's an indicator right there that your body is pretty dehydrated. Most people wake up really at that level that would be sort of like in that severe dehydration state. So this is really important. So the main goals in terms of hydrating properly is to minimize fluid loss during training competition, immediately replace fluid that you used, and trying to like prevent thirst. If you're already feeling thirsty, you're way past that point of dehydration. So kind of like what are the benefits? Similar to like the benefits of the nutrition from the macronutrients and micronutrients, it actually plays a huge role in terms of performance. Even like a 2 to 3% fluid loss can actually impact performance up to 30%. So you may not even realize necessarily that you're not performing at your top level, but when you're hydrated, it can make a big difference in terms of speed, in terms of tactical skills, endurance, more energy, better focus, being able to make those quicker decisions, more accurate passing plays. It can prevent injuries. If you're dehydrated, it can put you majorly at risk for a lot of things, like pulling a hamstring, for example, if you're even a little bit dehydrated. So you really want to try to get out at practice already hydrated. You want to make sure that it's not something that you're trying to do afterwards, like rehydrate. You want to try to go into practice already well hydrated, even if you have a very early morning practice. But it's also, again, plays a big role in terms of recovery, healing your immune system. So kind of like ways to ensure top hydration, there's a couple things that you can do. So number one, sorry, next slide. So number one, if you kind of just as an overall average, your weight in ounces is basically what I would say to try to aim for. I know for some people that can be super high, but on the lower end, like being that an athlete, it is too low. But basically a half an ounce to 1 ounce per pound of body weight, that half an ounce is way too low. So if you weigh 170 pounds, you should be aiming for 170 ounces of fluid in a day. Again, I know that sounds like a lot, but you guys are training at a pretty high level. And that's just like, again, a guide to try to aim for. Whenever you have an opportunity to refill your water bottle, to grab some extra water. Then the second way to ensure too, if you ever check your weight before and after training, just to see if you feel like, wow, I I sweat a lot. Let me see how much I typically end up losing. If you check your weight before and after, every pound that you lose, you should be having somewhere around 20 to 24 ounces of fluid. Ideally closer to 24 ounces. So if you tend to lose, 3 pounds, you should be having close to 72 ounces pretty soon after. The goal is to prevent as much fluid loss as possible by having that hydration plan, by staying on top of it. And if you need to take some like extra electrolytes to help your body hold on to the water better, if you tend to be a heavy salt sweater, like if you know that you're sweating a lot of sodium, your body might have a little bit of like white on your arms after practice. That's usually meaning that you're sweating out a lot of sodium. Then the electrolytes can absolutely help you to be able to hold on to that sodium, to hold on to your water. And then I think the easiest way is throughout the day, just every time you go to the bathroom, check your urine color. You want it to be like a very light lemonade color. If it's darker, then you're pretty much already dehydrated. If it's green, like if it's an 8, it's a disaster. You're finished. Yeah. So. And similar to the eating schedule, having a hydration schedule is really important. You guys have like really long days between trainings, individuals, and classes. So it's always good to kind of write out a little plan for yourself, even when you can fit in, especially if you're needing somewhere around 5 liters of water a day. That's a lot. So to try to have a plan like, okay, I'm going to have 2 liters, in the morning time, 2 liters in the afternoon, and aiming for 1 liter at night. So at least having that as a guide, but it's important again to plan it for when you wake up, the pregame or pre-training, during. If you do get breaks, if there's a halftime with your sport, whenever you have that opportunity to take an extra sip, even if it's a quick sip of water, trying to use those periods, those breaks to do so. And then immediately after the game, that recovery shake's also going to help your body recover with hydration besides from the nutrition. It's giving you those electrolytes, and then also trying to get in that water. And then the rest of the evening, really trying to rehydrate. I know like not wanting to go to the bathroom a million times or wake up in the middle of the night, I got that. Your body should start, like once you start increasing your water, your body will start adapting and using it for all those different systems. And it should lead to less having to get up to go to the bathroom. So in terms of maximizing your fueling on campus, trying to be strategic about it, trying to make sure that your timing is right, getting the most out of the dining hall, trying to make sure that you're being strategic with your swipes, your flex points, trying to make sure that what you're putting for your meals are giving you the best nutrition that's going to help your performance. And using that refueling station whenever you can, grabbing those snacks, keeping a few things in the locker room, and trying to really be on top of that, making sure your plate is colorful if possible, and trying to aim for, trying to get these foods that are like the superfoods, the things that are going to pack in the most nutrition, like what we had up there in terms of those colorful items, and trying to aim for variety. Variety is pretty important for providing your body with the most vitamins, minerals, and keeping it like what I was saying with like some carbs, some protein, some veggies, that healthy fat, keeping that in mind when you're in the dining hall. And also just trying to make sure that you're carrying that water bottle, like what I was saying before, refilling it every opportunity you can, and packing snacks, keeping them in your bag. If you know that you have a long period in the day where you have classes one after another, keep some extra snacks, take an extra thing from the refueling station, have that with you to be able to keep your body's level where it needs to be, keeping your body ready to be able to perform and to recover. So sleep plays a huge role, kind of like the nutrition, hydration, all of that together. Aiming for 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I know that's might be a big challenge unless you really have like a good plan to do so. I know that might be seeming impossible, but athletes who sleep less than 8 hours a night can have a 1.7 times greater injury risk. So it does make a big impact in terms of recovery, body composition, actually stronger appetite cues. You're more aware of when you're hungry, when you're full. It helps increase concentration. It's important for muscle growth, repair, and recovery. That's the time that your body actually recovers, is during sleep. So all this nutrition that you're giving it, that's when it has a big impact. So trying to have like a little bit of a plan. And if you need to take a nap, naps can help a lot. But ideally it should be timed properly, not just like, all right, let me pass out. Like, put timer on your watch, like aim for less than 30 minutes or an hour and a half. Those times actually don't disrupt your sleep cycle too much. Okay. And next. Okay, so I'm gonna take some questions right now for you guys. Does anyone have any?
What advice do you have for student athletes that may be dealing with allergies and elevations?
In there, so allergies can play a big role in terms of the food choices. I know, like on campus, that sometimes is a little bit difficult. I mean, in terms of specific allergies, like anything, just
Like dairy and gluten.
okay. So with gluten, I mean, trying to get in more rice, corn, quinoa, those can be like potatoes. Those are all like really good carb sources. And those things you can usually find pretty easily on campus. In terms of dairy, the protein shakes, like if that's what you're looking for, is trying to make sure that you're getting in the non-dairy recovery shakes. Maybe your coach can get some different ones for you if there isn't any non-dairy options. That is such an important thing in terms of recovery. And if you have like little refrigerators in your room, that may be an option to keep some non-dairy options as well. Keeping some like almond milk, which also is giving you calcium, vitamin D, oat milk has it as well, and kind of looking at those non-dairy options. That's still going to, the recovery shakes that are the non-dairy, they'll still help. The whey protein is most ideal, and sometimes people who have a dairy allergy or dairy sensitivity, the whey, if it's not an actual milk, like true milk allergy from the protein portion, then that would be fine. If it's more like a lactose intolerance, then the whey protein should be fine. If it is an actual like milk allergy, then making sure that you are getting some of the non-dairy shakes, and those will still help with recovery. They'll still help your body do what it needs to do, but again, it's maybe less ideal as whey. A soy-based one, some of the vegan ones out there are good.
Who's next?
What are your thoughts on caffeine in coffee?
So caffeine, if you're drinking coffee throughout the day, it might take the place of how much fluid you're taking in from water and the things that are going to really impact performance. Coffee doesn't necessarily dehydrate you, but again, if it's taking the place of having as much water that you'd be getting in because you're mostly focused on drinking the coffee, then that's where it can lead to some dehydration. So not the coffee itself. Some caffeine can help with performance, but it can also disrupt your stomach and cause some like stomach issues. So you want to time it optimally, and also making sure that it doesn't impact your sleep later. So usually it takes 8 hours for caffeine to digest through your body and metabolize. So if you're going to bed, you know, at 11 o'clock to try to time it optimally, that there's a good 8 hours. So trying to stop like any kind of caffeine intake after 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock would be ideal.
I think an important part of that is looking at thinking about when you're competing. So we all want to be stimulated and we all want to, most of us or many of us probably drink coffee in the mornings. You probably don't want to be overstimulated. So kind of timing that both for sleep and for
So if you were taking that, it was like the best time to.
No, that's a good question. It's more about actually that, that timing of not letting it drag out. So at least some of the research, I mean, this changes all the time. So there might be something that, you know, that's happening today that they might change that tomorrow. There might be a new thing that comes out. But what the research shows is like kind of timing it in terms of like less than 30 minutes. It doesn't matter really the timing of the day or an hour and a half or even 3 hours. But it's on that cycle of around 30 minutes, an hour and a half or 3 hours. But it really can be like any time, but just trying to make sure that it's within that time. That's why really setting your watch, setting your alarm to make sure it doesn't go over. And ideally, like keeping it to 30 minutes if it's later in the day, so it doesn't impact your sleep. Like if it's earlier, having that longer in that time is fine. That makes sense.
What electrolyte drink do you most recommend?
If you want to make sure that it has sodium, potassium, that it's providing ideally a little bit of carbohydrates as well. I know you guys are Powerade and Body Armor, right here. I mean, most important that it has like a good percentage of sodium, potassium, and you know, all of them kind of vary a little bit, but usually the Powerades, the Body Armors, and the Gatorades are designed, they're created in the lab to make sure that that they're providing the right amount of all of those.
What brand of multivitamins do you recommend?
I mean, that can vary a lot. Some contain different things. I'm a big fan of Garden of Life multivitamin. I would definitely talk to your head trainer in regards to any vitamins to just make sure that they're NCAA approved. I usually recommend going on the NSF Sport website or getting, like, I have the app on my phone, and it lists pretty much all of the different vitamins that are really well approved, that are well tested for, and that's for all supplements and that's for all vitamins. But I'm personally a fan to recommend like the Garden of Life or Clean Athlete multivitamin.
What are your thoughts on like energy drinks and pre-workout?
So that's kind of similar, you know, a lot of those energy drinks and pre-workout times, those have the caffeine. So making sure that that you're careful with how much you're taking in, that it's not going to again overstimulate you, like what Dr. Christian said, and that in terms of the timing, that it's not super late in the day. So even if you're kind of like up studying, trying to do your best to not have it where there's 8 hours beforehand. The pre-workouts, they'll have a little bit of the different vitamins, like usually a lot of B vitamins that help with carbohydrate metabolism. And it also will have a little bit of caffeine. And again, if it's timed appropriately before training, before a game, I think it's fine. But like making sure that it's not lingering the rest of the day.
If you're dehydrated, tap water is your only option. Is it that?
I mean, I think the tap water in New York is totally fine. But I would definitely, like, if you wanted to get like a Brita or a water filtration for your room and just keep that, I think that's actually a good thing to get. And you might like the taste better, and you know that at least it's filtering out some things.
What sort of protein bars do you recommend?
You know, I think with protein bars, so much, like I think what's important with that is making sure you like the way it tastes. And that it's giving you a good source of protein, that it is a little bit lower in sugar content. And ideally that it is providing vitamins and minerals if you're using that as like a snack that's gonna fuel your day. But, you know, there's so many different ones out there, that trying to have ones that don't have a million ingredients is also important. But I think having one that you actually like, so you're going to eat it, and that it will be something that you can enjoy versus feeling like it's.
Two more questions and then we'll have you go.
And then one good thing with the protein bars, a lot of them have sugar alcohols. So if you look at the back of the label, trying to choose ones that have very, very, very minimal sugar alcohols, like maximum, I would say 5 grams or less, because that can really disrupt your stomach and impact performance that way.
These are great questions.
Do you think carb loading that I'm for gamers for me is effective? Yeah, so absolutely. I also think the carb loading is important if you have a really early meet. So it can give you some extra carbs that you can use for the next day. Ideally, carb loading almost like 2 days before, a good 48 hours before, trying to get in some extra carbs throughout the day. But the night before, absolutely, it can make an impact.
Thank you.
Do you recommend the use of creatine?
I am a fan of creatine, depending on what your goals are. So if your goals are trying to gain a little bit extra muscle mass, it can make a big difference. It can also be important to use if you're recovering from injury. It's been found to really prevent muscle loss. So, and there's different levels and different amounts of it, but it does help in terms of putting on a little bit of mass and also again preventing muscle loss when you are injured.
I think that concludes the question and answer. Thanks so much.
Great. 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 Awesome.